Okay, how's everybody doing? All right, so, hey, first off, I'm going to just take a minute and say, we're glad you're all here. Thanks for putting this together. I know a lot of work has gone into this. This is time kind of out of the office for you each, and you all have all these tasks that I've given you, or Colonel Harmon's given you. Maybe I don't know who gives you tasks, but somebody has, and you're not doing them right now because you're kind of here. And the reason why we've got you here is because we think this is like more important, right? It's important to take this pause and kind of get to know each other a little bit, get to learn a little bit about some tools we can put in our kit bag. And, I think it's important that you learn not just tools you can put in your kit bag for yourself, but tools you can put in your kit bag for others, right? So that you can do this thing. The chief and I have been talking about it a little bit, and I didn't come up with it. One of our commanders and command chiefs out there came up with it, this concept of kind of reaching out, right? So we're all told to reach out. We're going to have a whole bunch of folks walk by today and talk to you about helping agencies. And we've all seen that list of contact numbers that you can call and you can get a hold of. And when you need help, just reach out. Man, that can be hard to do sometimes when you're in the middle of needing help, to reach out. And so there's another part of that I think you'd call reaching in. And that's that ability to know the people that you work with well enough, that you're around well enough, and the courage to reach in. Be a little bit intrusive or intentional. I think the chaplain will talk about maybe later. That intentional reach in and be willing to do that. And I can tell you, you can't always, I can't order you to do that, right? I can't order. I'm looking at JA. They're going, yeah, Joe, you can't order that. I can't order you to do it, but the times that you do it, you're going to be glad that you did. I can't order you. We had one of our wing commanders, we just did rally, and all the wing commanders get together with the generals and they talk about everything that's happening around the command. And we just did that not too long ago. And one of the wing commanders told us about a project they did at their base that I found fascinating. They did one of these, I think they did one of these monkey surveys, which I don't even know what that is, but it's apparently a survey you can do out there. And they did one of these monkey surveys where they asked, and he did a unique thing. If you would just fill out the survey with the minimum amount of information, I will give you a day off of work, right? Just all you gotta do is fill out the survey. And he asked him, who's your person? Who is your person? And have you made contact with them, and do they know you're the person? And I think he thought, like I thought, that your person, when you ask us military and civilians who your person is, that your person would be, maybe someone you work with, that might be your immediate supervisor or coworker or something like that. But overwhelmingly, the person was, a spouse, a friend, a parent, someone who wasn't, no military affiliation, if you want to say spouses have no military affiliation. Well, I kind of think they do, but in any case, they're not someone who wears the uniform or draws a paycheck from the United States Air Force or Department of Defense. I found that just fascinating, right? So, who's your person, right? Who's that person who will know you well enough to reach in? And do they know you're their person? And I think that's an important concept to kind of grapple with a little bit too. So in any case, I do think it's important that you spend some time today. You kind of open those lines of communication. You be willing to ask a few questions, and you walk out of here with a few tools that'll help you get to know each other better, so that you feel comfortable reaching out or reaching in when that time comes. Okay. Now, COVID, another big thing. We're watching COVID, watching our local area. I know that's on your minds. Be willing to talk about that. Colonel Harmon will stay for this. I think, Chief, are you staying for the whole time? I'm looking for you, Chief. I've lost you. Yeah, you staying the whole time, Chief, today? Okay. So Chief will be here. So I've got, people here who will kind of come back to me and tell me what your topics are. Kim, are you here the whole time too? I got leaders all over the place here that be here the whole time for us. So I want to hear, back what your concerns are and make sure that we're, taking the steps. It's really, really important that here inside of, our Expeditionary Center, that we're taking the steps and precautions to protect ourselves and protect our families, protect our mission, right? And I'll give you 2 weeks to go home and do that if that's what you need to do, or work from home and telework if we need to do that. But things are clamping down around us and we're seeing the rates around us go up. Let's make sure we're doing the things that we need to do so we can stay mission effective and healthy and fit to fight tomorrow. Okay? All right. I think with that, I'm just going to take a couple of questions if we have any. Does anybody have anything at all for me? It can be about today or not about today, or just anything in the world you want to ask about. Because now it's kind of, I'm not staying today. Okay. So sometimes what I do is I wait until I have 3 questions. Which maybe I'll do that today. Maybe I'll wait for three questions. And I guess we're Zooming, so if we get a question, if you don't, you can type it in even. No one's typing anything in either. Okay, hi.
Mr. Cruz asking question 1 of 3. We're going to reduce our Thanksgiving social meal. Are you planning on doing the same thing for Christmas, or what's the plan for Christmas, or have you gotten there yet?
Yeah, so we did. We normally do a Thanksgiving meal here. We get everybody together, bring the families in, and have a big old time. And then we do the same thing kind of around that Christmas holiday and New Year's holiday. And normally I have a big party at my house, and I invite all the colonels and generals that are on the base, and a lot of our civic leaders, and we've just put all that on hold. We've said, I don't want people to feel like because I'm saying let's have a party that their families have to come in. I don't want to feel like they have to. So what I think the best way to handle some of these things is to push it down to the individual leaders at their level to make the decisions. So if you guys have a small office where you're all kind of tight and you work together every day and you want to do something, then do that. But do it safely and keep in mind the gatherings of 10 and those kinds of things. But as far as having a big old, I don't want people to feel like I forced them to do something. And I hope that we'll have us a big old party when we get that vaccine and we've all taken and all inoculated and our families are safe again and all those things. We'll have a big celebration. It'll be good. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Mr. Cruz. Please. Okay, so we do I want to say we do a weekly report that rolls in, and I'm looking to see if the exec is sitting here. So we have 2 on the campus? No, twice a week we roll out so we do a rollout twice a week, and we've got a product that tells us exactly how many people have it across the entire enterprise and and whether that's up or down from the previous week. So let's get that into the hands of division chiefs if they're not, and then it's okay to push that down lower. Does anyone remember this morning's, or I guess it would have been yesterday's, how many we had on campus? I do know that we've got a few more because we had one in one of the hostile courses that had put some contact together. So we could have that before an answer for what it's worth before the end of the day, before you guys end up your time. Mr. Cruz, we've got a set end time, so you're out of the office for however long you're out, but you'll be back at whatever the set end time is. Okay. I forgot to mention that earlier. Okay, what else? So I want to give everybody, I get one more. And no fair asking, have you ever had a situation where 3 questions weren't asked? Someone asked that one once. Okay, well, let me just ask y'all a question then. And okay, go ahead, George. I can repeat your question if you want. Okay.
So, sir, as we were filming yesterday for your message for the 627, I think you gave a lot of good examples of not just people reaching out, but leadership reaching in. I was wondering if you could provide some examples for the audience, especially folks on Zoom.
Yeah, so, one of the things that that I talked about, and we all have personal examples, I think, but as we were talking yesterday, this concept of reaching in, and sometimes it's not, real intrusive or obtrusive or whatever you want to say. Sometimes it's just simply asking a question and waiting. That's all it is. And I had, one of the stories I told was about maybe I was an old major, but I was certainly a major at the time. And it was a civilian employee, and he had started off pretty good. I hadn't been in the organization I was in very long. I had 30 or 40 people, I think, in that organization. And this guy's performance was relatively quickly, over the period of about 2 months, really dropping off. He was now starting to come late to work, and a few things. And so I'd put in place, if he's going to be late to work, he doesn't get to talk to just a coworker or immediate supervisor. He's got to talk to me, which was one or two above, his supervision level. So he had called in one morning late for work, and so I won't use his real name, but as I sat and talked to him for just a couple of minutes, he was telling me he wasn't going to make it in today. He wasn't feeling well. I said, John, what's going on? And I just waited. And after a period of time, to me it seemed like a really long time, but it might have only been 5 seconds. It might have been a minute, I don't know, but I just waited. And John says, well, sir, I'm just kind of sitting in my living room, my underwear, wondering why I should even continue living today. And boy, that's, we were waving in, first sergeant, and getting over to his house pretty quickly and telling him that's what we're doing. And John went off and got the help that he needed. I see John today when I go to ATAs and things. He's still at that same base and that same job working. And I get a big old hug from him, and we catch up and see where he's at and where I'm at and how things are going. But, sometimes you just only have to ask what's happening. Sometimes people will tell you, sometimes they won't, but you got to listen. You got to take the time to listen. That's the lesson I learned that day. And you all have, stories like that, I'm sure, of times somebody reached out and asked how things were going, or, maybe you did as well. But I just encourage you to do that, and it can be that simple, right? Okay, do you have another question? Okay, I'll take one more.
Colonel Lamoth, she says, the campus has 2 total right now. Major Fugate is bringing the numbers in now. Okay,
so 2 on the campus, and it's we'll get to, go ahead. Okay, so there's 38 total on the joint base, 5 on our campus right now. So that's more than we've had in a little while. I think we're up a couple. That's going to ebb and flow. Okay, I'm gonna. Any other questions? Any follow-ups there we got? Just okay. Hey, so I think it's important too that we have fun, right? So I'm kind of on a kick at telling Ronald Reagan stories. So I'm going to tell a Ronald Reagan story, and then I'm going to leave. So, and I can do that because I'm old, not most of you in the audience aren't old enough that you were an adult. Some of you weren't even born when Reagan was president, but I was an adult, so I remember some of his stories and hearing them. And so the story I'll tell you today is about, I forget what form President Reagan was in when he was telling this, but he told the story about an eternal optimist and an eternal pessimist. And there was these parents, and they went to see a counselor with their twins. And these twins, kids are eternal. One of them was eternal optimist. You just couldn't bring a kid down. The other one was this eternal pessimist, just hard to bring up. Always. And so I said, Doc, we need to get a little help with this. We're not raised in the same, we just don't understand if there's a way to. And so his doc says, well, I'm going to try a little experiment here. He says, I think we'll be able to cure this. So we're going to take this eternal pessimist and we're going to put him in this room. We're going to let him spend all day. We're going to have every kind of treat they'd want. There'll be pizza and cookies and soda pop and slushies and ice cream and every kind of toy you could imagine. That, you know, these 360 boxes, they didn't have those then. But maybe a Sega or something, you know, and some, whatever kind of toy this kid could think of would be in there for this child to play with. And then in the other room, we're going to take this eternal. They said, we put this pessimist in this room, he's going to spend all day in there. He's going to see that life could be really good, that there's lots of fun things to do. And we're going to take this eternal optimist and we're going to put him in this other room, and it'll be filled with, you know, horse, you know, that stuff horses make. And we'll put him in there, and we'll leave the child in there. And after a day of spending with a room that filled with this stuff, he's going to see that, you know, sometimes life hands you a lemon, and that, you know, we'll see where this comes out. So they do that. At the end of the day, they go and they open up the room, but the child is filled with toys, and that child is just sitting there just bawling, just having just a real pity party. And then, well, what is wrong? You've been in all these toys all day, and this child says, yeah, but I just know somebody's going to come take them away from me, and I'm going to have nothing. Okay, they go into the other room, they open the door, and here's this other child. He is just down in the middle of this pile of, and just digging away, just you know, just throwing this horse stuff everywhere. And they're like, son, what are you doing? He says, well, with all this horse everywhere, he says, I just know there's a pony to ride in here somewhere. Right? So, you know, I tell you that it's not as simple as I think, you know, all of us just taking on the right attitude or taking on a different attitude. And sometimes we got a little predisposition on how we look at things, and that's all okay. But, you know, attitude does matter. And how we look at things can help shape things, and it takes practice to, you know, work on that. But I just encourage you all to look for the pony to ride, no matter what situation, you know, we give you out there, or life faces with you. And if it's not your own situation, then, you know, help somebody else find the pony to ride in the life circumstances that they're giving them. And then sometimes look on the bright side. You know, not every toy is going to come and get taken away from you. We hope. So in any case, thanks for your time this morning. That's much longer than anyone thought I'd speak, me included. But I do appreciate that you're all here. And, you know, Gary, good luck getting everybody back on schedule. Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, keep seats.
Thank you. All right, good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? All right, my name is Krista Brady-Sabo. I am the Installation Community Support Coordinator. Thank you, Major General Kammer, for inviting us to this event. So we're happy to see all your faces, and maybe not all of your faces, but thanks for joining in and being with us. So I have the pleasure to introduce our helping agencies. We've been coined many different names. Helping agencies, our care team, our CAT team. And we love the installation. We do a lot for the installation. We are not always seen, so we are glad that we are being seen today. So myself, as the Community Support Coordinator, I hold two different roles, right? So as a Community Support Coordinator, I teach all things resiliency, or the Master Resiliency Trainers, or the training assistants are underneath of me. So we have a lot of installation resiliency classes. We come out to different commanders' calls, and our members that volunteer as trainers come out and they'll do different segments on our Air Force resiliency. We also, in the community support office, we teach a lot of personal development classes. So that would be like our True Colors class or our emotional intelligence class or our PDP classes, things in that nature. So we are always willing to come out to different units and squadrons and teach classes like that. Now, in this COVID time, we're doing a lot online. So almost every one of our classes we've transferred into an online means. So we can do True Colors, if it's the under 10 people, or if it's a large group, we can do that on Zoom. We figured out how to do that very interactive as well. That speech that we just heard about that silver lining, right? So today, this is November, so it's National Gratitude Month. So we have a lot going on our Facebook pages. So our community support assistant, which is Miss Carrie, has been doing a lot of gratitude information on our Facebook pages. So you can check out what's on there and maybe you can utilize some of that stuff. I said I hold 2 roles, and my second role as the community support coordinator is my CAT team. This is our lovely group that's up here. We coordinate a lot of the efforts of what we can do together. So things that are happening on the installation, and how can we do events and campaigning and come together as one great force. And so what I want to show you real quickly is we have a lot of swag out there for you guys. So you guys can take that back to your sections or you can use it for yourselves. But each one of our different sections have different things that they hand out. But the 3 pieces of information I want to show you, which stems from our community action team, is I know there's a lot of ways to contact us. You've probably seen these purple magnets. You've probably seen some of these trifolds. And our new thing is our Wingman Cards, right? So I wanted to show you a little example of why we have these 3 different things and how you can utilize them for your personnel or for yourselves. So first we have our purple magnets. We don't carry our refrigerators around with us, so I recommend that you guys take a picture of it, snap it, put it in your favorites. This is, what agency you need to contact. So you go down, you look at the list, you give your airman, or you utilize that number yourself, right? But not everybody knows who all of us are or what our office symbols even stand for. Community support, that may not make sense to somebody. Somebody might not know the acronym SAPR, right? So if they don't know those things, but they know the issue that your airman or yourself has going on, we use this. This is our trifold. This is a little bit more of, I don't know who to contact, but I know what's going on with the person. So whether it's financial issues, whether it's depression, whether it's anything doing with sexual assault, they look for the key term or the ailment, and they go across, they figure out if the green dot is there. If the green dot is there, they go ahead and find out the agency to contact, right? And we love to come out and we love to do things. But this is, stick it in your wallet. Everybody in this room should have one of these. We have, I don't know, how many of them? Thousands and thousands of these. Everybody can have one of these. Stick this in your wallet. These are the emergency numbers, right? So this is the 24-hour numbers. This is off base. This is on base. These are issues that are going on that either our care team or the off base can help. So these are the emergency contact numbers. These are your Wingman cards. This is the one that should be in every person's wallet. So that's why we have so many ways that we can be contacted. Of course, all of our numbers are on the JBMDL app as well. If you guys don't have that, you can go onto there. You can also go on the website. There's many ways to get a hold of us. And we love to come out and we love to teach classes. And so that's a little bit about who we are. And so now I'll let each one of the agencies kind of give a little spiel of what they want to talk about. But any questions about the community action team in general first, or our resiliency classes for me before I head off? Yes, ma'am.
This is on. Yes, I have a question from Mr. Peter Arbello. He asked, do we struggle with resiliency at times, or do we lack meaningful connection to our purpose that might steel us against the struggles of life and service? He says, Nishis, a man with a why can bear any how. So he wants to know if we are lacking a connection to our purpose that might.
Well, we definitely could come out and teach one of our Air Force resiliency classes. We really talk about the purpose and the why, kind of like reframing yourself and really celebrating that good news that we share with each other. So if that is something that that person or that section is interested in, we'd love to come out and really have that conversation with them and really teach some of those classes. We definitely can't help people find their why, but we can help them seek for it. Okay. All right, so next I'm going to let Ms. Carrie Schoonmaker speak on behalf of the Violence Prevention Program.
Good morning, everyone. So quiet in here. Good morning. My name is Carrie Schoonmaker. I work in the Community Support Office. I am the assistant to Miss Krista Brady-Zabo, who's our CSC, and then also Miss Janice Doss, who is our Violence Prevention Integrator. So this morning, I want to talk to you about some of the programs that we have to offer. Our main goal is prevention efforts in the Joint Base Violence Prevention Office. Anything that has to do with the prevention of sexual assault, domestic violence, team dating violence, sexual assault prevention, and also response, and then also your annual suicide prevention training falls underneath the things that we are responsible for. Okay. We work with the Director of Psychological Health to determine what some of the efforts can be here on the base, so that way we can bring them to you within the unit as part of your prevention plans within the squadron or the organization. So Ms. Janice wanted to make sure that I told you today that we are available to you if you do need some help with those prevention plans, or if you have some issues or some things that you'd like to discuss with her in the office. We can come out, we can do some community outreach like the rest of our helping agencies can do, and we can bring those efforts to you within the unit. Okay. One thing I wasn't going to mention, but I'll mention it because it seems like it falls along the lines of the question that we just received. We are also the mentors for the Get Connected clubs here on the installation. The Get Connected clubs are something that came from the fact that we realized that people need a connection, right? You have to have a connection to something or someone in order to feel those positive emotions that fuel our resilience. So if you are interested in forming a club or seeking a club that already exists, we do have a list of 25 different clubs that are available on the installation. And those are people just like you and me. We have a hobby or a talent or a passion for something that we like to share with the community. We have a Yarnworks club. We have LARPing, if anybody knows what that is, live action role play. We have a LARPing club. We have a kickball crew that has just been started by the spouses, and they go out to the fields and they just play kickball to get connected and just have a good time and to feel that networking connection. So if you're interested in that, you can find that on the Joint Base page under the Get Connected Clubs. Or if you have a passion you'd like to share and you see something that's not out there, we can always help you get that club together, give you some space, give you some marketing, and be able to help you form and advertise that club if there's something that you'd like to see on the installation. Okay. So again, I represent violence prevention, and if you need anything, Miss Janice Doss is available to you, and the phone number is 609-754-4724. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Bernadette Peace. I'm from Family Advocacy, but before I speak about my program, I do want to mention I'm also here representing behavioral health and mental health. And just very briefly, mental health wanted you to know that they are offering a new class to work on kind of stress reduction, and that will be virtual. There are a little bit bigger than a business card slips of paper out there that are Black that talk about that class. And so I just wanted to make sure that you're aware that mental health was offering that. In addition, behavioral health is open for business and taking new clients. So I know sometimes it's hard to get in with mental health right now. They've been a little bit overwhelmed with requests for appointments, and so behavioral health might be an appropriate resource for you if you're having trouble getting into mental health, or if you think that maybe your situation would be helped with behavioral health. So that's their programs. Now I get to talk about mine. I work for the Family Advocacy Program. We are available for any active duty families. So if you're active duty or dependent of active duty, our resources are available to you. When you think about family advocacy, I'd like you to think about it as almost like a two-branch tree. One is prevention and one is intervention. As far as intervention is concerned, if there is something that has happened in the forms of maltreatment, whether it be in a relationship or with children, family advocacy intervenes there. So it's not just spouses. It could also be if there is a dating relationship or a past dating relationship, if there was some form of maltreatment that happened in that relationship, family advocacy would offer support in that situation. What we do offer restricted reporting similar to the SAPR program. Our restricted reporting would be available to anybody who is in a situation where they feel like there's some kind of partner abuse and they want to talk to somebody, but they don't want everybody else to know. They don't want command to know. They don't want security forces to know. They can come in and make a report to us or anyone in the medical group and request a restricted report. They can get support and counseling, just like somebody who did not have a restricted report would get. We cannot take a restricted report if somebody's life is in danger or if this is kind of public knowledge. So for example, you can't go tell your commander and then ask us for a restricted report. So just to make sure you understand that. Any concerns with intimate partner maltreatment or child abuse, please let us know. We will intervene and help the family. And that's our goal, is to really help and support the family or the individuals going through that situation. The other thing I want to let you know about is our preventative or kind of support measures that we have. So we do things like free family counseling. If you and your spouse or you are having trouble with some parenting issues, feeling kind of stressed or overwhelmed by the work-life balance that may be, going to work and coming home and caring for families, anything like that, we have free family therapy. You can come in as an individual if you're talking about your family and relationships. That's still considered family therapy. That program is called FAST. All you have to do is call and ask for an appointment. It's that easy. We get you right in. That does not go in your medical record, and command is not made aware of that. That's just private counseling that you can get through Family Advocacy. We also offer things like couples communication classes, parenting classes, anger management classes, stress reduction classes. All these things we're pretty much offering virtually. We have been doing some one-on-one classes with people to keep our numbers smaller if we can fit that in. In addition, we can come out to any kind of size unit that you want, and we can present things to you right in that unit. So for example, if you have a bunch of, I've been out, for example, when there was a bunch of young fathers, and the unit asked me to come out and just talk about some fatherhood stuff with those people, or come out and talk about stress. The last program I want to mention under that kind of preventative supportive piece is our new parent support program. If you are active duty and have a child below the age of 3 or expecting a child anywhere in that range, you are eligible for a new parent support program. We have a full-time nurse who can just do things like talk about feeding or talk about sleep issues or developmental issues with you. When it's not COVID, she actually can come out to your home and work in your home with things like that. Right now, she's doing her sessions virtually. All of our classes, for the most part, are virtual, but if you go on we have a webpage, JBMDL Family Advocacy Program, and the New Parent Support Program also has a Facebook page. Those Facebook pages sometimes will have links to the classes that you can take right there online. If you have any questions or are interested in anything, please give our office a call. As part of the swag back there, our brochure is back there with our phone number and a list of some of the classes and things that we offer. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Ms. Bernadette, I know you mentioned active duty for family advocacies, and I know that's because of the limited manpower, or in this case, lady power. The U.S. Air Force Expeditionary Center is pretty heavy in civilians, retirees, GS, and contractors.
Yeah.
For those of us, recommendations, can we still call and maybe you can help set us up with a different agency, or what would you recommend for those of us that are not active duty?
Yeah, so let me say, first of all, especially when our classes are online or even in person, if we have space, you can certainly come to those classes, right, if they're not filled up. What we can't do is offer kind of that direct therapy pieces I've spoken about. However, if you are in a situation, first of all, absolutely, if you're in a situation where you feel like there is some maltreatment happening and you need support, call us. We will talk with you. We may even bring you in and help you get set up, do a warm handoff and help you get set up with the right resources. We absolutely want you to be safe. As far as kind of that preventative piece, or that more voluntary counseling piece that we talked about, Though we can't provide that for you, if you're having trouble figuring out who can provide that, give us a call. We also have some resources that we may just be able to give you if that would be helpful. Did I answer your question, sir? Good. Any other questions? Thank you for your time.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer West, and I'm here with my coworker, Lieutenant Darby Germain, and I am so happy to be speaking about a program that I have passion for, and a shout out to the people on Zoom. Don't want to forget about you. I'm happy you guys are here as well. I work for the Sexual Assault Prevention and Response Office, and so what that means, kind of like family advocacy, we have two branches, prevention and response. When we talk about prevention, we want to educate and advocate for people to intervene if there's a violent situation that could become worse. But our main goal in sexual assault is to eradicate it from the military. We still have sexual assaults occurring. Therefore, we still have response. That's where we come in as the SAPR office. We do have volunteer victim advocates as well, and Ms. Sandy Lewis in the back is one of our volunteer victim advocates from the EC. So if you have any other questions for the SAPR office, always feel free to go to her office and to ask her some questions. Our intention is to help survivors of sexual assault get the resources and the support that they need, whether that's through the installation or through the community. In addition to survivors of sexual assault, we help people who are supervisors, friends, first sergeants, co-workers, because we understand some people are like, oh, I don't need to listen to SAPR, it'll never happen to me. However, you might have somebody that's close to you experience a sexual assault, and now what? We want to educate you on how to bring that person to our office if they choose, or other resources on the installation to help that healing process for that person. We hope that you will just be a listening ear and don't ask too many prodding questions, but allow them to come to the SAPR office where we can also give them some resources. And if that person doesn't want to report, they can have that confidential conversation with us, and we don't have to take it anywhere. So we hope that you as members of the installation can get a hold of us if you have any questions. For supervisors, we do want to foot stomp, and for instructors, you are mandatory reporters of sexual assault. So what that means is if you're aware of somebody within your chain of command that has been sexually assaulted, you are a mandatory reporter to report it to us in OSI. So we hope that you start with us, because depending on what was said and who was said it to, we might still be able to keep that report restricted. However, we appreciate when supervisors or anybody or friends or coworkers reach out to us, because we're also here to help you walk through certain situations, conversations, and to give resources for that survivor of sexual assault. The important part with us is that we are 24/7, text and by phone. So we do have our phone number posted all across the installation. However, just in case you're unaware of what it is, it's 754-7272. Spells out SARC, so it's easy to remember. But if you can't remember it, just go to the JBMDL app, and it's under the directory. If you don't have that, you can always go to the Google box and type in JBMDL SAPR, and our website pops up with our 24-hour line on there as well. We are still responding in person, even due to COVID, but we do have telephonic intake capabilities if somebody is not comfortable coming in person. We just want to make sure we make contact with that person and advocate for them and start the healing process and give them the resources that they desire. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to us. Any hypotheticals, what ifs, anything that we can do to help you out, we're here to support you. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Anna Orlov. I am the CHIPS coordinator. So CHIPS stands for Civilian Health Promotion Services. We are a free health and wellness program for the civilian workforce population on base. So although that is our target audience, we do offer services to active duty as well. I'll just give you a brief explanation of some of the services that we do provide. So like I said, it's a health and wellness program. So our main services are screening services, one of which is blood work screenings. Those are only for civilian workforce population. It's just a little finger stick. You can check for your total cholesterol levels, HDL, triglycerides, blood sugar, just to see if you're in a normal range. And if not, then we would recommend for you to go see your doctor. This is a good yearly check you can do every fiscal year. That is one of the services we provide. The other screening service that is provided is available to active duty as well. It is a body composition analysis. So if anyone has ever maybe tried anything like this in the past, maybe a bod pod or skin calibers, it is just a quick 1 minute getting onto a machine. It checks your body fat percentage, how much muscle mass you have, how much lean mass you have. And you can do this a little bit more frequently, about every quarter. But that's really helpful as well to know kind of where you are, to have a baseline. So those are the main two screening services that we provide. We also provide health education classes. So they can range from topics such as nutrition, to exercise, to stress management, to getting more sleep, and even topics on mental health like gratitude and health and happiness. And we even have a new class that's going to be offered next month, talking about social isolation relating to COVID and people teleworking. So all our services right now are offered in person by appointment only. I know, of course, with COVID and the changes going on currently, that may change, but otherwise we still offer the health education classes virtually. So you can always reach out to me and schedule classes virtually, and also virtual health consultation. So if you have a more specific question that's only for you, that you only relating to you, you can also just reach out to me via email or phone call, and I can kind of give you a little bit more feedback for your individual situation. A couple other things I do want to mention. So at the table, once you go out front, I do have a bag for you there. It's labeled CHIPS. So my information is going to be on there, and some of the paperwork, my email, my phone number, and a couple little goodie bags for you to take with you. Also, I do recommend for you to go on our website. It's usafwellness.com, and just sign up. That way you have access to our information, to our calendar every month, depending. Our classes do change every month depending on the awareness topic that month. And then also just a quick reminder of how to contact me. And there's a lot of also great resources on the website on many different health topics, and even some pre-recorded health classes that you may be interested in. But I do encourage you, if you can't reach out to me and schedule in person, to also reach out with COVID, depending on the changes, to reach out and schedule for virtual services in the future. But thank you for your time. If anyone also have any questions before I go away. I know it's quite a new program for the base, so it's still getting a bit more traction. So if you've never heard of it before, I do encourage you to let your civilian workforce population know, and just kind of spread the word about that. Okay, thank you.
All right, so as you see, the community action team offers a lot, right? There is some overlap between our agencies. You can see how we work together, and we do a lot of different things. I'd like to go back and answer a few questions that have been asked. Mr. Grape talked about what services can civilians use as well. Underneath of the CSC also is the Employee Assistance Program. So we connect to online resources. So in that trifold is the information for the Employee Assistance Program. That does have counseling services, it has financial services. So the 1-800 number is in there, and that's for our civilian workforce. The last thing that was not mentioned that's under the CSC is diversity and inclusion, right? So we do have our diversity and inclusion managers on the installation. That is a program that is just starting up. The EC has a diversity inclusion manager as well. So he is working directly with AMC and will be working with our diversity inclusion working group. So that is a program that's just starting up through our services as well. So any questions finally for our community action team as a whole, or for myself as the CSC, before we head out and you guys get to hear 5 love languages? All right, so I appreciate you guys having us come to your RTP for the day. Again, if you have any questions about any of the community action team and you're confused on who to contact, I can be your point person to get you in the correct direction and get you guys the right services you need and to the right section. So thank you very much for having us. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Appreciate you all coming this morning. There's all kinds of good things that they brought along out in the back on the table. And so after they depart, that will all stay here at the Expeditionary Center, and we'll make sure that those things are out and about. Well, you can hear that we're part of an organization, and would you agree with me, that help is available 24/7. We're part of an organization where help is available 24/7. Not every place where people work would be able to say that. And so, again, welcome to those who are out in Zoom and the 30-some that are in the building. Yes, help is always available. So the art of great caregiving is to get the right person to the right place at the right time. You know, you call me in the middle of the night and I'll answer. And you heard others that were just up here on the stage. So if, to kind of frame our RTP today, you know, if none of this fits you so far, I hope you've paid attention, because, you know, some are still in uniform. Most have been in uniform up to a whole career as well. We know the system, but to have in the back of mind, who is it that that person could use, and to get them connected when it's their turn. Would you also agree that what's normal in life is to have rough bumps? I've had some, you may have had some. If you've not had some, it still may be coming. Are we going to tell stories about 2020? Wow. Would we have imagined that we'd be at this point back in March? You know, and so I'm standing feet shoulder width apart. And that's intentional. Not only is it a good speaker pose, but it helps as we talk about the winds of life that are buffeting us this year in 2020. You know, COVID as it continues, and it impacts people that at times we know and care about. The social injustice, the unrest, the elections, you know, continuing to teach and feed that pipeline of getting general purpose airmen trained for their deployments and the other courses that we teach or support. That's all a part of 2020. And so we slow down a little bit to pour some more good stuff into us today. And again, I'd like to frame that. If none of this fits you, and you may know about 5 love languages as a tool already, great. Find one thing that you can use or that you didn't know, or then also pay attention on who could this help and share it. It's part of that idea that General Kammerer shared of being intentional and reaching in with others. We tease about being work family all the time. We spend enough hours with each other. You know, it's important that we continue to invest in each other, but there's purpose in that investing in each other. Looking around who's here in the room today, I've had conversations with each of you somewhere along the line, sometimes multiple times in the hallways and whatever, over the time that I've been here. In my job jar, that's important, because I trust you would believe me, you will believe me when I say, because of some of those kinds of conversations earlier, when life happens and a right person needs the right kind of help at the right time, I may be among those that they choose to talk with, and we catch people and help people. So we slow down to do some resiliency tactical pause things today. We talk a lot about resilience, but I don't know that talking about it guarantees that everybody all the time knows how to do resilience well. Is that fair? Have you seen that? Do you know some who can say the words, but sometimes that applying it from, this is sometimes called the most difficult 11 inches in life, from getting what we know to our heart or out in actions. And so this is an investment time in us, in each other. My hope and intention is in talking about 5 love languages, which is a tool that I'm excited about, would be something that can be a new tool in our toolbox, or if you have known about it and already have it as a tool in your toolbox, then that you would help as we get off to some of those small group discussions and share your excitement of how you've seen it be helpful and work. So I'm going to switch a slide here. How many of you had known 5 love languages before today and preparing for today? Looking at the crowd here in the room, it looks like about half. Great. How many of you were able to use the Love Nudge application? Okay. A few hands went up. Okay. And some of you may have already known your primary and secondary love language, and so that's okay. I've met Dr. Chapman a couple of times along the way. What a gentleman, what a great caregiver. He's been involved in caring for people and families for 30 to 40 years. And as he tells his story about how he came to Write 5 Love Languages and that whole series of love language books. He looked at his notes from 10 to 15 years of counseling individuals and couples in his office and realized that some of the things that were hurting, that they talked about, that they complained about, things that weren't best for them in relationship could be boiled down to these things. Now, it's still kind of early in the morning, and because our other caregivers talked well about what they do and how they can help us, if somebody needs to take a bathroom break between now and 11, just quietly get up, go, and come back. We're not going to slow down to take an official break, but we will finish by 11, one way or the other. As we dig in with 5 love languages, would you agree with me that we live in a throwaway society? You know, with all these restaurants closed or open to curbside, you know, it's kind of like you even go to the dining facility just down the road, a walkable distance for our students, and it's kind of like dine in or take away, you know, take out. And all that plasticware and cardboard, and it's used once and chunked. But I'm in awe of marketers because there are times when they know about us as people in amazing ways, to such the extent that they can get inside our OODA loops and know how to relieve our wallets of dollars. But as we've been trained well, that we live in that kind of throwaway society, there's a danger of fear. But I want to draw out that metaphor, and I talk a lot in word pictures. It works for me. I'm a visual learner. I hope that can connect with you. In that throwaway society, do we realize how it sneaks up on us? You know, how old is your car? What, you drive something that's older than 10 years? I drive something that's older than 15 years. Boy, I must be about 3 standard deviations out on that bell curve. How's your iPhone? You don't have 12 yet? What's wrong? All the comm folks, you know, they know about, you know, they got the 3 cameras and you can do Dolby sound off of your movie making off of your own phone if you got the latest. You don't have the latest? But what happens if marketing and that throwaway society is applied to our families and our relationships? If it's not like it was, it must be broke. And if it's broke, throw it away. Think about your watches. When is the last time you took a watch in to get repaired? With my digital watches? No. I've gone through a bunch of them in the last 20 years. When's the last time you've changed the battery in your digital watch? If it stops working, do we throw it away? There can be danger if we throw our relationships away. Now, this is not to guilt anybody. There are all kinds of stories in our family of families here at the Expeditionary Center. And life can be tough, life can be rough. So to look for another tool that we can put in our toolbox to either help get off of stuck or to put another tool to help make good better, I'd be all for it. I'm in the people business. I'm in the hope business. And it's been a tool that I've used probably since my AFIT a bunch of years ago. And having met Dr. Chapman, again, very engaging. Some of you may have listened to him when he was here a year ago. And up on the slide, you can see some pictures of Dr. Chapman there with the chaplains and the chaplains' spouses here when he was here on JBMDL just a little over a year ago. My wife Lydia and I had a chance to eat supper with him, and I got a picture in here somewhere of that I was going to show you. What a gentleman, and you know, he's in his 80s, still traveling the world. And we asked, how long is he going to keep this up? And he goes, as long as I'm making an impact. And I trust he still makes plenty of an impact. So, yeah, another tool in our toolbox, and we're going to dig into 5 love languages. So as the overview, we're going to talk about what those 5 love languages are, just to kind of flesh that out a little bit, see who that may resonate with primary and secondary love languages here in the crowd. I'm going to encourage you to ask questions along the way. So on Zoom, Sergeant James will help with that. If some come in via chat, we're going to invite you to use the microphones, and they're turned off so we don't get feedback. So if you have a question, come on down, but make sure to turn that on and turn it off again. A little bit later, there's 3 parts. We're going to talk about the 5 love languages, but then with the last bit, we're going to also talk about applying these love languages to our kids, maybe even grandkids, and to kind of stretch that tool and see how else it could apply. And then finally, we're going to talk about the 5 languages of appreciation in the workplace. So again, trying to do it in a multi-phased approach, but a tool that can help us in our closest relationship with our spouses, with our parents, with our closest friends, because some are single in the crowd. This can apply to all of us, but then to also see how it can apply to kids. And notice how it changes just so slightly, 5 languages of appreciation. Now, maybe you could hear if, from your chaplain, hey, I love you. But that might get a little interesting, in our workshops around our desks. So that's why it's 5 languages of appreciation in the workplace. Tools to help individuals, couples, families. If the only tool that somebody has in their toolbox is a hammer, everything starts looking like a nail. But sometimes you need a screwdriver or pliers or a saw just to work things. And so the idea is, let's talk about this as another tool for the toolbox. Now, old navigators in the United States Air Force will say that if you change your vector by 1 degree in 1,000 miles, you'll end up 16 miles different than from where you first started. In the counseling world or in the caregiving world, that's important as an encouragement, because there was discussion, hey, should we invite spouses and significant others to this? Well, it's kind of these COVID days. Some are going to be able to Zoom in, but it's kind of like, no, it's okay, even if only half of a marriage team here, because little change brings bigger change. And if we can pour something good into part of a family, that can work its way through the rest of the family. So little change can bring bigger change. All right, let's dig into the 5 love languages, and we need to talk about love. What a misunderstood, overused, used in multiple ways. I love chocolate. I love reading. I love my wife. I love our dog. Those aren't really all the same categories, but we use the same verb. And so it's a little squishy of a topic, but as I often tease with men, just because we may not have been enculturated to talk about our feelings, and as a Minnesota farm kid, the cows needed milking, who cares how you feel early or late in the day? I mean, I grew up around some of that too. I didn't grow up as much around, be a man and don't cry, but I don't know that we shared a lot of emotions, and that has impact on us as we know our own stories. So to, embrace those feelings and those emotions, what works at work may not work best at home. And we can't be a first sergeant or a drill sergeant with our families. It just doesn't work, or with our kids. So Dr. Chapman, as he digs in and starts off in the book, and by the way, with the 5 love languages, I've got the picture of the military edition up there. He has given permission to military chaplains to share the electronic copy of that book. And so I'm going to email it to all of us later today, in the next days, okay? And so again, that's if I do a decent enough job of hooking you, and we talk about it, and you see it as a tool that you can make use of, you can continue to explore and apply it, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. Dr. Chapman starts off in talking about how people think that, especially in American culture, think that being in love is not only awesome, but that it's the piece that should last. You ever had the tingles? I remember back college days, I was sick in bed and home from college because I was so sick, fever. It was around Thanksgiving time, actually. And I was sitting there just musing about my new sweetie. Oh, she's the most wonderful thing in the world. And, just on and on and on. And he uses the word obsessed. It's the right word when you have the tingles. Been there, remember, understand, seen it in others. Because when we're outside, and maybe you've had the brother, sister, parent role, friend role, yeah, but how can Johnny be so wonderful? He hasn't had a job in 5 years. Oh, give him a break. He's just looking for himself. And you're going, I mean, you know that dance? We talk about it as having rose-colored glasses on, where people don't see the full reality because they're in love. But the research shows that those kind of in love feelings may only last for a couple years. Think about that. The Elizabeth Taylors of our world sometimes chase that through 8 and 9 marriages. And sometimes it's about the chase, because after they catch the one that they're chasing, well, over time, then it doesn't mature or root deeply or last long. Throwaway society? Ah, yeah. And, you know, we've often heard it said that opposites attract. You know, Reader's Digest once said being boy and girl is opposite enough. But, you know, 30 years in the caregiving business, what might seem appealing, and this isn't really a love language is kind of a thing, it's just some of the things that I've noticed in walking beside people, we'll say introversion, extroversion. And think of a spectrum with 0 in the middle, +1, -1, all the way out to +5, -5. We'll say that a couple has, one is an introvert to like a 3, and the other one is an extrovert to like a 3. Ooh, they must balance out because opposites attract, right? Well, maybe at first, and we'll say she's the extrovert. It's so wonderful because he, the extrovert, listens to everything I say and he just dotes on every word. And he's going, wow, I don't have to say anything because the airwaves are filled up. And it's wonderful because I don't have to put myself out there. But later on, it's not additive. Yeah, it's still before 11 o'clock. It's more like multiplicative, and don't worry about the minus. That +3, -3 doesn't balance out to 0. It's sometimes later in life more like an issue of like a 9, but it can go up to 25s if they're even more widely different. Does it make sense? Okay. So to get some tools in to where we can help couples fly in formation better and not miss each other at different altitudes could be wonderful. And again, it's a word picture that I like because it so fits our business. Because if it's a Thunderbirds at the air show, we want them missing each other at show center. But when people do that in relationships, that's not best. And so to have a tool that can get us back into formation, and with T-38s, when you're 3 to 6 feet apart or 5 to 10 feet apart, the pilots would talk about 2 fingers on the stick because it wasn't time for it really was time for that gentle stuff because they were working hard to be in formation. So being in love, the tingles can last for a couple years, but that's not going to last forever. And so the chasing after it, yeah, we may have been there, but this is a tool as relationships mature. Now, Dr. Chapman then goes on to talk about this idea of a love tank, okay? It's like a bank account where people can do things that build the other up, that are edifying, that fill the love tank like a deposit in your bank account, but they can also make withdrawals. Oh, we missed each other there, withdrawal. If we keep missing each other, the love tank can go towards empty or dry up. And that's not going to be good. And sometimes I do get to talk to people that are feeling that way. We may have all heard it. Oh, I just don't love him anymore. We had so much in common. We gelled so well. And then, I don't know, it changed. Kids came along, life got busy, COVID hit, whatever, and we're just not in love anymore. Well, colleagues, love is an action verb. So one of the reasons why I so enjoy 5 love languages is because it helps in a very practical, I think reasonably in a reasonable and understandable way. It gives us a tool that we can act on. And don't we tease about, our work being sort of a leadership laboratory? You can take these tools back today if you haven't already acted on them and try them out. See how it works. So let's get to know about it a little bit. First off, the first love language is words of affirmation. Words of affirmation. Ah, you look nice in your suit today. All dressed up with a tie. That's looking sharp. Is that a new dress? Wonderful. Looking great. Thanks for that great work you did with pulling this event together. It was amazing, and the responses have been powerful. Even the students' responses for those courses named you by name. Isn't that sweet on the ears? Okay. Who has words of affirmation as your primary love language in the audience here? Okay, I see at least 3, 4, 5 hands. It's a powerful way to lift people up. And I didn't grow up around a lot of compliments. I heard, in my family system, I heard more from my teachers and my principal than I ever did from my mom and dad. And I asked Dad about that. I was in seminary decades ago now, and I would have bet you that he was going to say, well, son, I didn't want you to get a big head. What happened? Surprised the socks off of me. He goes, well, I didn't want to do you the way Grandpa had done me. Because he, in his day, my dad's now like 81, he'd bring home 6 A's and a B, and all he heard from Grandpa was, well, next time bring up that B. That wasn't really words of affirmation. So he wasn't going to repeat it, but words of affirmation is my secondary love language. And so it's another way that affirms me and builds me up. It was like searching for those words of affirmation from the ones that I cared about and cared about me the most and seemed to be lacking. When I pinned on Major years ago, my dad wrote me a letter. Greg, I'm proud of you and what you do and who you are and what you continue to do in your service to God and country. I was 40. I cried. Sweet, sweet words, the power that words have to lift up. And it costs so little to share them, to notice. That makes sense? Words of affirmation. Now, Dr. Chapman tells a story about himself that he will do things at his house that when he was a young man, promised himself that he would never do. He was always made on Saturdays to vacuum. He couldn't go out on Saturdays before he had finished vacuuming the house that he grew up on. He couldn't go be with his friends. And so he vacuumed every week. When he got to be a young man, I'm never going to do this again. Now, his wife, Carolyn, sweet gal, her primary love language is acts of service. Okay? And so the way that he fills the way that Dr. Chapman fills Carolyn, his wife's love tank, is every Saturday for decades, he's at their home vacuuming, and he even dusts the blinds because she knows he hates it. But she gets it. This is pure love because he's doing it for her, because that's her love language and the way that she gets it. Now, the neat little twist in their story is that after he finishes vacuuming and dusting the blinds at their house, she goes, "You're the best husband ever." Now, his primary love language is words of affirmation. So he says, stop, say that again. "You're the best husband ever." And guess what he does next Saturday? Back to vacuuming and dusting the blinds. See how it can work when a couple flies in formation and they understand each other through the ups and downs of life, but they fill each other's love tanks, even though it might seem like a foreign language. We'll come back to that idea a little bit later. So acts of service happens to be my wife's primary love language, and I tried a little experiment as I was preparing for this. We had some bulbs out in the house, went over early enough to get some bulbs from Self-Help because we live in Falcon Courts North, and got the little stepladder out and put the bulbs in. And when Lydia came home, it's kind of like, "I love you, Lydia." I replaced the bulbs. And she goes and looks and turns on the lights, and it's kind of like, more light again. How cool is that? She comes into the living room with a big old smile and says, "Thank you." It works. And you can try those things out at your house too. Whose primary love language in the crowd is acts of service? Okay. I'd like to hear from you. Are there some things that really matter to you, or how is it for you? And if you shout them out, I'm going to repeat them so it's heard out on Zoom land, but I'm going to do some popcorn questions. What's one thing, an act of that really lifts you up? Cooking? Aren't you the cook? Wow. So the one who takes care of the general and all of his needs really appreciates it when you yourself, now newly married, congratulations. Does your husband cook for you? He does. Isn't that wonderful and interesting in the same breath? Because that's what you major in, and yet when somebody does that for you, you can taste the love because they did it for you. How cool is that? Somebody else with acts of service as a primary love language. What else? I didn't hear all of it. Allowing? Oh, taking care of the kids, allowing you to sleep in, and it's doing it for you. Oh, it's wonderful. Because those kids, you know how they are. It's 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning. Where are the cartoons? Give me a little rest. So great. Acts of service fill your love tank, and it means a lot to you.
I got one.
Yes, please.
Yes, so Jeff Van Gilder says, I'm happy to do laundry, but folding it is the worst.
Yeah. Folding laundry, no. Washing is okay. So, yeah. And yet, if in his walk of life he can do that, the other will understand this is done out of love. Okay? Good. So we've done words of affirmation, acts of service. Third one is gifts. I think of an old high school girlfriend of mine where literally I worked at after school at a grocery store 40 miles west of Minneapolis there my last year in high school. And I literally gave my girlfriend at the time a prize package plastic ring out of Cracker Jacks. So how's that for dating me? But why I remember it to this day, she warmed up as if that silly little plastic thing, which I didn't have a lot of meaning behind, it was a very platonic relationship, and it ended after we went off to college, you'd have thought it had a stone in it. Because you see, with gifts, it doesn't matter how much it costs. What matters is that you thought of the other person, and they have a physical reminder that you had thought of them, even if it's as cheap as this plastic round thing, okay? Who in the crowd has gifts as a primary love language? I don't see any hands raised. That's okay. Anybody in close relationship, whether married, parent, or close friend with gifts? We'll try it another way. Yes. What do you notice with your friend when you give him or her gifts? And so was that a food that you were giving? So your husband likes the personal items, but when they're from you, that means a lot to him, okay? And does he brighten up in a way that surprises you? Okay, good. I've been meaning to get those, but you got them for me. You were thinking about me. Ooh, that's pouring good stuff into the love tank, okay? And we notice. And noticing what those that we're in relationship with, what they brighten around would be great clues to where you don't have to take the 30 statements, the inventory, or go to Love Nudge app. You can pay attention to what impacts them, or listen to their complaints. You never get me anything. Are you even thinking about me? You never say anything nice about me. Compliment? Hello? Acts of service? You know, when did you do something just because you might not have liked it, but it stayed not getting done? So pay attention to the complaints. That's actually a hot clue, because it's the same life, one side of the coin or the other. So we've talked about words of affirmation, acts of service, gifts. Now let's talk about quality time. I left my phone in the office so it wouldn't ring on me. But hey, honey, I'm going to pay you some quality time. Is that quality time? No, because it's not clear channel. You know, we wonder what it means when our students or our colleagues, and we're trying to talk with them, and they're busy elsewhere. My guard chaplain supervisor, we would always tease that with Father Joe, we'd sometimes get 10% of his brain bandwidth because he'd be typing, talking, and listening to the phone all at the same time as we're trying to have a conversation. Kind of like, oh, I think we're getting 15% now. We got more of his bandwidth. That's a good thing, or was it? Okay. So quality time. With quality time, it doesn't matter much at all that it costs anything. It doesn't matter as much where it is. It's the sole attention is paid to the other. It may be on the couch and the movie is stopped or the sound turned down. It may be, let's just go out to the duck pond and sit and watch. Or let's have a good chat. It'll boost me up if you tell me what's going on in your life and if you help me understand what leads to these actions and how it's been. And just let's have a good conversation together. So it's not words of affirmation, but we're helping the other out by letting them in. And it's just us time. Does that make sense? Who has quality time as their primary love language in the crowd? And if you hadn't done the love app or done the inventory, I'm hoping you're kind of reverse engineering some of this, kind of like, yeah, that one not so much. This one, did I complain about any of these so far? Oh, yeah. So Phil, with quality time, how does it impact you when the ones special to you give you that quality time? So while acts of service were more important to you earlier, now quality time has become important in life and career. And is there a favorite thing that you understand you're getting quality time? How does that look for you if you were going to name, hey, now that was special? Oh, wow. So they shut the Wi-Fi down and had kind of a family meeting for you and the interaction. How's that for a wonderful, revolutionary, good but oldie kind of for an idea? Okay, yeah. Being distracted doesn't bless somebody who wants quality time. And it makes sense because we really don't multitask. Do you realize that with the research that looks into multitasking, so-called, really, it just measures people's ability to switch from this to that to that to this. That's what that research focuses on. Because we're not wired like our computers. We do one thing at a time and go to the next, and we may switch. But when we're doing it for the ones that are special to us, that's going to distract and not be most helpful. So the last one we get to talk about is physical touch. Now, physical touch doesn't and most often doesn't end up in the bedroom. Okay? It may be a part of it in relationship, but this is broader than that. I remember I've had 2 one-day surgeries in life along the way. And with my jaw surgery years ago, I remember that my guard chaplain boss came to visit me in the hospital, and that meant a lot that he took some time out from his parish to come and see me in the hospital. And the other thing I remember is that Lydia sat and held my hand, because touch is my primary love language. Who else in the crowd has touch? It's actually probably about 30 to 40%, so maybe even the biggest response. So those with touch, physical touch, may remember those times when our sweeties or a parent or kids reach over and just grab our hand, not asked for, and not in uniform, so we don't have to worry about PDA and all that sort of stuff with our military thing. It may be, getting a back rub from the one you care about that cares about you without asking for it. It's along that whole spectrum. and it doesn't have to end in the bedroom. In fact, it may be valued most when it doesn't. It's just special because it's special, not because it leads to something, okay? So that's kind of fleshed out the 5 love languages. What I'd like to ask you to do next is to kind of make little groups, 3 to 4, maybe 5 to 6, and I'm gonna switch slides here, and for the next few minutes, I'm gonna ask you to talk with each other, to engage, and you can see, share, knowing what your primary and secondary love languages, how they helped you in engaging with your spouse, your significant other, or close friend. Do you find yourself expressing your love language and doing it for others? And how does that work for you? We'll come back and talk about that together. What's helped you get what edifies you may not fill the other's love tank? And do you have any stories about missing the other? And that third question, what are you going to try and do differently? How can this tool help? What else would help you in using this tool? So I'm going to walk around, and I'll just kind of have a big ear and listen in, but kind of as you're clustered, talk about these things for the next few minutes. And those of you out on Zoom land, you can kind of do some self-reflecting and think about how these impact you. Any questions before we do that for a few minutes? We're doing fine with time. Yeah, just go ahead and break up and engage and share some things. We're going to try and make this practical. Well, thanks for your discussions. I'm going to call us all back together again as we pull those discussions to a close. And what I'd like to ask next is, what were some of the big ahas that you had in your group? And I'm going to invite you to use the microphones. The one detail that we hadn't mentioned yet, if you come up to the microphones on the aisles, have to use your big voice for us to hear in the room. It's getting it so that they can hear best on Zoom, okay? So that describes why earliest on in the back, when our other caregivers were up here, it's kind of like, oh, it's hard to hear. Is that microphone on? Yes, the mics are on. They're getting it on Zoom, but for us in here, come up and use the mics. What was, let's look at the first question. Any ahas in your groups of how you have benefited from knowing your own primary or secondary love language as you've engaged with those closest to you, your spouse, significant other, or a close friend? Where has that paid off already? Don't be shy. This is just us. All right, Phil, thanks.
So my personal aha moment was when I scored pretty much almost a 0 on words of affirmation, and that's my wife's primary love language. So having to recognize that and change up how I was not giving that to her, that was a big aha moment in our relationship early on. So trying to training myself over the years to give her that affirmation, and then actually using that in the professional environment too, learning how other people do need that, and I was just not giving it.
Great, great. Wow, to realize that what wasn't your strong suit is what your wife was majoring in with words of affirmation. Have we all found that we often give to the others like we're wired? Have you caught yourself doing that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I will be the one that will embrace Lydia, and it's acts of service for her. So she doesn't mind, but it's not filling her love tank. Where if she would come and, give me a hug even more regularly, oh boy. And so just to realize that this is not the golden rule, this is a tool for the platinum rule. You remember the golden rule, do unto others like you'd like them to do to you? The platinum rule is do unto others as they would like it done unto them. That's at the root of what you just shared with us. Powerful, powerful. That we miss each other, back to that metaphor, when we do for the other like we'd like to receive it, if it's not their primary language. And oh, by the way, it's rare that people in relationship have the same primary language. Opposites attract. And yet sometimes later that can become the burr under the saddle because we miss each other. Was there something else that helped you to get what works for you, doesn't work for the other? When that was a great example that was just shared. Are there other examples where it's kind of like, oh, yeah, it would work for me, but I now understand that it doesn't work for the other? Any other stories? Mr. Cruz.
Is this on?
It is on, yeah.
Okay.
So you have to use big voice for us in here, but they're hearing it on Zoom.
So those who know me know that I have 3 children, my 2 daughters. I was raised where you treat your children the same. That's the way you show love, so they don't feel they're different. And you don't, people say, oh, you love your son more than you love your daughter or whatever. And I realized that through going through this, my daughters are different. And when they were younger, we would want, because I am a physical person, and I'd want my daughters to be with me and my wife when we go off and do stuff, especially when we were living overseas. And so we'd say, okay, we're gonna go somewhere, we're gonna go have a meal, and we're also gonna buy you something. And I thought that, they're young girls, they want to get something. And my oldest daughter, who turns out to be a gift person, likes to be gifted, she would always go with us, even if it meant getting out of something else. With her friends, she goes, oh, I want to go with you guys. And she'd always get a present or something. She loved it. My other daughter just seemed like she had no interest in doing stuff with us, and it was very frustrating. And I thought that this is going to be that child who, when she's an adult, I won't see her anymore. And it was very scary. Well, it turns out that's just not the way that she relates. That's not the way that she wants to relate. And I think my wife and I recently picked up a property down in Florida where it's going to be our retirement home. And that daughter, who I would have never thought would even live within 5 states of where we live, is the one who helped find the house, is begging us to move down by her. And she just did the walkthrough the other day and can't wait for us to come see the new house. And it's taken a long time for me to actually understand what works for her. But now that I understand it, it's a great relationship. So going through this whole process, which I was boo-hooing originally, has actually opened up a lot of understandings for the relationships I have with my children, as well as my wife. So
great, thank you. Powerful story that once we can look at life through the glasses of the 5 love languages, all of a sudden some of these relationships for decades pop clearer or pop different. Or now we get why we connected with this one, but less or differently with our kids there too. So with using the 5 love languages, it's often like learning a foreign language with both of those great stories. So es freut mich sehr, dass Sie hierher kommen heute sind zum Sprachen der 5 Liebessprachen. And you're going, well, it sounded kind of like German. I didn't catch a thing. How are we supposed to relate? And that's the point. It's doing for the others like we'd like to get it done, but it misses them. So in learning a foreign language, and I was a German major in college, it takes time. It can be difficult to do, but relationships can change when we do it in the way that the other one wants. And sometimes it's a big smile just over light bulbs being changed. Sometimes that relationship, the love tank is real as we pour good stuff into it when we do it the way the other would appreciate it. Mr. Great, come on down.
So another quick story kind of with what Mr. Cruz had. So growing up, I'm a farm boy from Wisconsin. My dad never said, I love you. Never hugged me. Oh my God, that was, stay away, it was the standard farm folk, it's just guys don't hug, and never said I love you. And I didn't realize how much that impacted me until later in my life. So I learned that my son, who's 24 now and about this tall, I grew up always telling the kids that I love them. I didn't didn't knock my dad. I just knew that was his way. But I knew with mine being touch as my primary and words of affirmation secondary, I didn't know it then, but I know it now, is so I always grew up hugging my kids. I always grew up telling them I love them. So now my son is graduated through college, but I mean, he could come right in here, and if he's going to leave, he's going to give me a big hug and doesn't care who else is around, but he'll say, Dad, see you later, I love you. And I mean, this is in college in front of his friends, where I grew up, my dad would have been embarrassed if I said, hey, Dad, I love you, or give him a hug in front of people. But for me, finding out now, touch, the big hug, and words of affirmation, I'm glowing the rest of the day. So you can learn and you can pass it on to your kids at the same time. And it definitely makes my day. So
Great. Again, a powerful, powerful story that once we understand this pattern, we can catch it in the complaints or realize how we were missed or use it for our kids. And at our house, our girls are wired differently. Allie, our older daughter, is physical touch. I can be sitting on the couch and she'll just walk behind and go boop, boop, boop on my shoulders, or once in a while, a nice little massage. And it's kind of like, I tend to wait more for her to engage. And that's okay, but that's her way of connecting. Powerful. And it means something to me because that means we share physical touch as our primary love language. With our younger daughter, with Katie, she's words of affirmation. Just watch her brighten, give her a hug in the morning. Okay, Dad, I'm still kind of sleepy. Well, have a great day, pretty girl. And it's just kind of like, there's half an inch taller. And words matter for her. So to be able to understand this for ourselves and then work to apply it, not only with our spouse, our parent, our special other, a close friend, however we're thinking about that, but then to do it in between generations and to realize that we may have been thinking that we were missing our kids. No, they just would be affirmed and loved on with a different language. It's worth the learning of these what feels like a foreign language. It's worth the work to invest in each other because relationships change. What? That one wanted this mom and dad to come down to Florida? How cool is that? So we're going to talk about some ways that 5 love languages can be stymied. And then we're going to finish up this morning with talking about how this can be applied at work. So what else is part of our military lifestyle that can be aware? Well, most nearly a person in the room, and I trust obviously has been in uniform at some point for a shorter time, years ago, or a career, and all of our family and friends. Our military style of communication may not work best at home. I call it acronym leans, because these people very much into words, and they're different dialects, aren't they? It's fun to get into some of you because your service in the uniform was maybe in the Army, or sometimes you can't do the Marine Corps and the Navy. And so to be able to have, to learn those dialects can be powerful. One of my chaplain colleagues, the Navy chaplain on board now, he goes, Chaplain Jans, you can speak Navy. Where did you learn that? And it's kind of cool. It's a connector. But that military style of communication often implies that emotions and feelings are irrelevant. And if it's time for us to take the hill, or for the planes to go counter air, or for a mission to get off the ground, emotions don't matter. But what works at work for us in our service in uniform or as part of the family of families may not be best at home. Then we throw in things like TDYs and deployments and all of those things that take us out of the mix, and how challenging it can be to do some of these love languages at a distance. How do you reach out and touch someone when you're deployed to Afghanistan? Well, then you may use words. I sure would like to be able to reach out and give you a hug. Or sometimes I've used friends, pastor friend or something. When you see my family, give them a hug from Daddy, but please say, this is a hug from Daddy, and they'll understand what I'm intending. With gifts, that's pretty easy even at a distance. Acts of service, it's hard to fix the lawnmower from Afghanistan, but maybe we can help out. I mean, it's just, there's room for creativity, but we live the kind of lifestyle where there can be some challenges. There can be challenges too with reintegration. I've done a shorter version of this with 5 love languages with the redeployers at a previous base, of giving them a shorter version of a same good tool. And with reintegration, the goal is not to do it quickly, but to do it well. And the research shows it may take up to twice as long as we're deployed to reintegrate best. There are some career fields, and you may have been part of them, where we're gone every 18 months. Prepare 6, deploy 6, recover 6. And sometimes people don't finish their family business from a deployment or 2 ago. And then, oh, my all-time favorite, come back home from a remote and PCS within 30 days. Commanders see it all the time. I saw it after Turkey in my remote there. That's sort of double, just because when we're trying to say hello as family, the family is saying goodbye from their context, and then we move and have to do it here or the next place all over again. That's part of our lifestyle. We do it willingly, but it may be a reason why the 5 love languages can help us have that rock solid and anchor kind of tool that we can default back to when we do it well, so that even if we fly at a different place, we can still be in formation with our loved ones. Make sense? Okay, a couple more things that may stand in the way of doing 5 love languages well. In our line of work, it may be a redeployment from combat, where some of the things that happen downrange still have an impact at home. We've talked about learning a foreign language, of doing for the other, and it may be as challenging as investing in all those Italian verbs and nouns, and it's kind of like, oh, it's so challenging. Yeah, and what's the price any of us will continue to pay when we don't do for the other? That's why it's worth doing. The final little bit with is paying attention to each other's complaints, in that those are flashing red light kinds of clues of, hey, this is what I'm asking for. Don't listen to the words, listen to the heart. You never give me a compliment is a strange but often happening kind of way. Please compliment me. Do you notice me? You never give me anything. It doesn't matter how much it costs, but pay attention to those complaints with those you care about, because they too are clues for the glasses that the other one is using. What love language is their primary? Once one understands this for ourselves and how it can apply to others, all those things pop up in the first hour I'm with somebody, in my office or out in the hallway. It doesn't matter. You know, what's the concern? You know, it's not best between us. Okay, what's going on? Well, always complaining about this. And invariably, this is such a wonderful and practical tool, and it fits quickly. All right, let's spend the last few minutes that we have together in talking about 5 languages of appreciation in the workplace. With 5 languages of appreciation, I gotta stay here because I think my lavalier is dead. Sorry. Thanks, Kevin, for helping. 5 languages of appreciation in the workplace are important, because imagine doing this with those we work with or those that you supervise. How would you like to be rewarded? There are some that are scared stiff about public recognition. Don't embarrass me in front of all the colleagues. The quarterly awards, the annual awards, that might not be important. And so to get inside somebody else's OODA loop, not to shoot the other airplane down, but to do best for them as we give care and as we support and strengthen the workplace. How would you like to be rewarded? What's your language of appreciation? They are going to be the same. The only one that really ever changes is that the language with gifts is slightly adapted. It's talked about as gifts that are tangible. And for the civilians of our team, that those tangible gifts make sense. Don't just say nice things about me. It might be powerful and important, you know, the end of year bonuses and all of those kinds of things. A couple of tidbits about, you know, so that's a little bit with gifts. Words of affirmation doesn't cost us anything to build people up with our words. And that's a skill that I've had to learn too, because I didn't get a lot of compliments at home. I heard them elsewhere, as I had shared with you. It doesn't cost any more to pay a compliment. It's just that it's that intentionality. With acts of service, You know, what can we do to help the others? Because there's sometimes when we're sick or having surgeries or our extended family is going through things, we know enough about our stories. How can we do it so that the other appreciates it? Sometimes at work and the Air Force too, words of affirmation and tangible gifts are the two things that often happen at work, but they miss 50% of people. Missing half the team? Well, this is the way we do it. You'll appreciate that quarterly award when your package goes up next for promotion, because if you don't have any of them, it might impact how your package is scored. Well, that may be true, but there's another piece where if we're trying to build our teams best together, it's okay to ask, how would you like to be rewarded? How can I affirm you and lift you up? We might be surprised by the answer, but then maybe not. Because even at work, sometimes it's evident in the complaints. Well, I wish I could get this, or this would be so much more helpful to me. And we did a reverse mentoring in this very venue, 10 days ago or something. It was fascinating to listen to some of our younger cohort officers and enlisted. You know, the Air Force is changing the way that we think about those that are part of the team. People can now leave after 5 years and be vested in all those things. You don't have to stay to 20 anymore. So are they in or are they not? Sorry. They're in, and we may keep them, catch that, you know, recruit the person but retain the family. We may be able to keep them longer than the 5 years they intended if we can speak their love language, or their language of appreciation at work. How's that for an OODA loop and getting up and ahead of people? All right, let's pull this together. What we've talked about is a tool that can work eminently well in our relationships with our spouses, with our significant others, with our parents, with our closest friends. We've explored a little bit, hey, can we take it to the next generation? And some of you already have, of exploring how this can work with our kids. And we connect differently with them too, when we are able to do it, to show our love in the language that they appreciate, and it even can apply at work. Why did we take some time today to talk about this tool? Resiliency is important. While we talk about it a lot, we don't always know how to do it best or in every situation. We talked about it and we timed this for we did it in this kind of a time within this month, because you can go home and perhaps use this tool in a long weekend that's coming up next week. Try it out. And if your spouse, significant other, a parent hasn't taken the inventory, invite them to do that. Love nudge, to use the app is not too difficult. And I heard some of you talking in the small group discussions. There are other tools on that Love Nudge app that can help pull you along. You can say, how full is my love tank this week? And what are some goals that I'd have, just to kind of keep working at it, to kind of keep it in front of us so that we can continue to improve things. Why is it important? You'll be more satisfied in life. I'll be better in life. We'll be better together, even at work, when we slow down and give a care about each other. Because isn't that what resiliency is about? Not just that we bounce back and who gives a care about the other, but that we bounce back together because we do care for each other. The Air Force is always going to get its nickel out of us. And sometimes it's great at helping us to go from the urgent to the next thing, to the next thing. Hey, stay for a hot task, or get ready for an inspection. No leave. Let's throw COVID on top of it and still deploy. It's the life that we signed on for. So any little thing that we can get to pour some more good stuff in so that we can have a stronger foundation. And I went back to standing feet shoulder width apart, because the storms of life are buffeting. When we know about ourselves, we can ask and we can help train the others. Thank you for the gift. I'd appreciate words the more. Thank you for cooking for me. But my thing would be, I'd like the back rub. We can ask for what we'd like, as we're all trainable. Even old folks like me. We're all trainable. The last little bit is love is an action verb. And while it sounds kind of squishy, and we tweak it just a little bit to appreciation at work, it's something, the easiest thing to change in life are our thoughts. When our actions follow our thoughts, our feelings will follow our thinking and our actions. And that can bless us a great deal in our own lives, in our families, and even at work. So thank you for your kind attention. I appreciate the discussions that was going on in the little groups, for the stories that were shared. Any other questions out on Zoom, Sergeant James, that we can get to? Any other questions from the crowd? All right, thank you so much. And I'm going to ask Colonel Harmon to come up for closing comments. And sir, that microphone is the one that's working.
All right. First of all, I just want to give Chaplain Jans a round of applause for coming out and doing this today. I know there was a number of folks who were working to put this together for us today. And this doesn't just happen. You know, I'm looking up here at all the audio stuff that we've got going on so that we can reach out to the larger audience of those who aren't here. And I also want to applaud you for putting all this together and taking the time to make this work, because I do believe that the investment that we're spending today is incredibly important. You know, in the position that I sit in, and I'm blessed, and I use that word very, very particularly, to have a number of folks who I work closely with on a day in and day out basis. It's part of my job. The job is certainly bigger than I am. You know, I'm just another human being that just is lucky enough to be sitting here and doing the work. One of the things that I'm blessed to have is a number of folks who come in and advise me on what right and wrong is, so that I could also help and advise my boss on what is right and wrong. I will tell you, though, one of those who provide a lot of that mentorship and that guidance is Chaplain Jans for me. He and I had a conversation right when I first got here, and I wanted to open the door to him to say that I need his investment in me. And the thing that I will share with you about Chaplain Jans is that same investment that I have asked for him to come and invest in me is available to each and every one of you as well. And I just don't know if you completely appreciate what an incredible asset that we have here in him. I've heard a couple of different terms. I've only been here a couple months, but one of the things that I heard about him was that he's the chaplain ninja. He just kind of shows up all of a sudden when he needs to be there. You look over your shoulder and you're like, oh, there's Chaplain. Wow, how did he know that he needed to be here now? And magically, when you walk by his office, he's always there. And his door is open, the lights are on, and he's ready for business. And I have taken advantage of that, and I've closed the door, and I've spent some time with him. And he has come into my office and has done the same thing for me. So I want to just say thank you. Stay motivated. Keep that tank full so that you can keep getting around and you can be that chaplain ninja that we need you to be. So I often think about choices. You know, as I've been in the military now for 26 years, 26 plus years, and I think about all the choices that I have made over time that brought me to where we are today. And if you think about all the choices that all of us have made that brought us here today, it's almost unimaginable that if we would have made that 1 degree heading change, that we would all be somewhere different. But we have made the choices that we've made, and we are all here today, and we are all investing in each other. And that's why I will say that we made the choice, and this was at the advisement of the chaplain, because it's quite frankly some of the things that, you know, we're caught up in the day-to-day type of stuff, but how do we invest in our people? And this is incredibly important because, yes, everyone recognizes the fact that we are in a pandemic crisis, but there are some second and third order effects of this pandemic crisis that we have got to address. And I don't think that we're doing it very well. You know, we put these masks on, and I see a number of you have them on, some of you don't. But what happens when I do this? You don't know my facial expression. You don't know me. You see my eyeballs, you see what little hair I have left, and that's about it. I don't smile with my eyes, I smile with my mouth. So that 85% of my communication that happens in the interactions that we have day in and day out is probably down another 70%. So how do we make up for that? Are we making up for that? Are we engaging with each other and taking that extra 70% to make sure that we're communicating with each other? I don't think so. And I'm not trying to put any kind of weight or burden on you or anything like that, but I am asking you to have that level of engagement, that level of investment in each other to make sure that we are taking care of each other. Because one of the things that I'll tell you sitting in this job that is just incredibly hard is the totality of what I see from the 14,000 people who make up this enterprise, of the not goodness. We get the commander's interest items that get reported up. A lot of that is really, really bad news, and that's people's lives. And it's not lost on either General Kammerer or myself or Chief Sines that these are people and their families whose lives are changed forever. And you just have to wonder about the choices that have been made along the way that potentially could have been made by you or you that could have changed the outcome, where that wouldn't have been a permanent life-changing event that happened for them. So that's what I'm asking, and I'm charging you with, is to get out there and then have this interaction. He was very right that we were tactical in the way that in the timing of which we had this event, because we have the holidays that are coming up, right? If anybody knows, holidays are stressful, good and bad. And whether it's picking out the right gift or who do you invite over because of COVID, all those things that are out there, times are stressful. You may have a good support structure, but think about those who don't. And please make the effort to reach out to those. Take off your mask, take the risk, because we are in a mental health crisis right now. You heard behavioral health say that, hey, we're busy. That's good news in some ways. I will tell you that no matter how strong you are or how strong you think you are, you will be tried sometime in your life. I have shared with many people that I have gone to behavioral health. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not a stigma, and it didn't impact who I am or where I ended up in my life in the military. Because there will come a point, and there will come a time in your life where you have to ask for help because it's more than you can handle. And lucky for me, I walked out of the commissary and I was looking at this brown paper bag that said Military One Source on it. And I was like, you know what? I've told a million people. I was a squadron commander at the time. I picked up the phone, I called them, and I got help and moved on with life. And that's okay. And I share that with you just to be humble, because your life is incredibly important. You only live one, and if you don't invest in yourself, i.e. what we're doing today, we will not live the life to our fullest, which is really what we're trying to get at with some of these techniques and these procedures of engaging and having thoughtful interaction with each other. So I tell you, it's worth the risk. We need to physical distance. We don't need to social distance, okay? And I want to foot stomp that. We cannot social distance from each other. We must maintain some level of physical distancing, but we have got to take the risk with each other to make sure that we are taking care of each other, okay? So we're a little over on time. I apologize for that. I know that probably everybody is hungry or needs to go to the restroom, but I do want to open the floor for any questions or any other comments from anyone that are out here. Questions? Anything from the video land? Okay. All right. So lastly, I do want to wish, or one, thank you for your candor. Thank you for volunteering and opening up and making this a valuable time with each other, sharing your human side, because that is what ultimately is what makes you the most valuable to us, is what you bring as a human being, as diverse as we all are. That's what makes us the strongest that we can be. So I applaud you for that. And then, in advance of the holidays, I want to wish each and every one of you the absolute best Thanksgiving upcoming. Please don't forget what that means and why we are having it, and share, with whatever your most passionate love language is with someone else, why you're thankful for them and why you are thankful for your situation. So appreciate your time. Thank you very much, and have a fantastic day.